Hi, Julian here. Welcome to my mentorship series with Stephen Bauman. What is art mentorship and how does it work? Those are the questions I'm trying to answer with this series. Stephen offers mentorship in return for Patreon support, which I'll link in the description. So how it usually goes is we meet once a month. You send a few drawings over email before your meeting, and then you go through a critique with him during your session. This is the image I sent over for this month. But you can send over a few if you want to. Today, Stephen and I talked about unifying shapes for improving composition, some words about value control, and then a bit of commentary on how and when to use backgrounds for your drawings. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below. And that said, let's just jump into the meeting.
Value application.
Yeah, I think I have a lot more to do, of course, but I think it's coming along better. I used to have a really light hand, and I still do kind of, but I've been telling myself to just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder, I have to imagine that there's parts of this that bother you, but I
Yeah.
would also bet that I probably don't see them,
Oh,
if that makes
really?
sense. Like I notice this about myself. Like there'll be things in my drawings where I'm like, ooh, that's a bit, that texture there is like really bothering me. But then I also then I try to get into that audience mentality and I think I probably wouldn't see that if I didn't know I was looking for it. But yeah, just to say, I also think the value application I think is going well. Um, I think it's just for me maybe some of the edge choices, some of the unity choices. Uh, I see a difference in there's some things like around here. Sorry, around here that I think about. Oh, well, that's interesting. I wonder why that choice was taken. Um, like why this wouldn't essentially just become a silhouette that would kind of go across this space here.
Mm-hmm.
Like effectively that would become part of a shape that kind of corresponded with the hair. It's just something I noticed that like, oh, I wonder why that wasn't a thing
Mm-hmm.
at that time. And I guess I'm always thinking about in my work like how can I kind of tie things together a bit more? Um,
Mm-hmm.
like it's easy to become kind of quite fragmented. At the best of times, it's easy to become quite fragmented when you're working. Whether you have good, bad, or indifferent like source photography or model or light to work with. So you're kind of always searching for a way to like, get things to have like a sense of organization and kind of a cool sense of rhythm. I think you can see like if you separate that into some shapes, it becomes a bit more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It I think it also communicates the light source better.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but generally this is happening a lot. That like things get things get like a little bit I don't want to say lost in the details. It's not actually like lost in the details. Like it's lost in the what's the word? It's lost in the unity or the disunity, disharmony, the discord. Um, anyway, when things become too broken up, like kind of like they are almost in this cheek as well, it's kind of the second place I looked at, was that there's a lot of these kind of shapes that kind of seem to distract a bit from the what feels like the larger shape there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I was talking to or texting with a friend about this, and I've been drawing, and just kind of thinking about stuff. And it occurred to me that like probably when we're drawing, we should aim for about 60 to 70% of what the thing is. Like that probably should be our target. Like 100% of what the thing is likely is to not productive. Um, like you become this sort of this sort of rendering machine that's just trying to capture everything that's there kind of indiscriminately. But if you set that target, say at as I've suggested, 60 or 70%, I think then you start to become a little bit selective about what's important and what to show and what not to show, rather than, just showing everything. I mean, that's always an option to just literally show like every shape that you can find there. But I think a lot of times the better result happens when you're a bit more maybe judicious about what you include and what you don't.
Mm. So would like 100% be photorealism or like hyperrealism?
Yeah, I think so, right? Like that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, that you'd just be going in and like scouring the surface for everything that you can possibly show. Really, it's just the process of drawing, which is a kind of a selection based upon a set of criteria, but it's usually like habitually done. Um, when I'm drawing, a lot of times I'll go on autopilot, but I would say maybe it's a very trained autopilot. So I think
Mm.
that's a good target for art students, is to figure out how to train very well your autopilot.
Yeah, I that's that kind of mental model is I've heard that a couple places. I think it might be in the book called Peak by Anders Ericsson, the person who studied deliberate practice, that
Okay.
when you get to expertise, the experts don't think consciously about their decisions a lot of the
Mm,
time. It becomes an automatic process. I think, like you said, that's the goal, is to make the
yeah.
automatic process a good baseline.
Yeah, I mean that seems about right to me. Yeah, and I think it just a lot of it's just a selection thing. And some of that selection is based on kind of reinforcing the light concept. Like I figure with light coming in at the left, I can see that. Um, However, I guess experience just tells me that often when that's included, it looks bad. Like it looks somehow more flat,
Mm.
like more outlined, and usually unsuccessful. I mean, I'd love to give you like a backdrop for that opinion that's like, oh, in standard cases, it's been proven that, but it's not really.
Uh-huh.
It's more just every time I try and do that, it looks bad, so I don't do it anymore.
I see.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you can kind of stand on my shoulders for that one and just say like, yeah, usually it looked bad when he did it. I might not do it either.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. That's
I think that could be advantageous. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same
and
thing with this kind of value grouping stuff down here, where I just think, usually having slightly more uh, recognizable shapes like looks better. I think it's kind of, I think it's a kind of like compositional idea, if I'm honest. Um, I don't think it has to do so much with rendering as much as it is like how we read a picture. Uh, like compositional analysts will say that like in a composition you want to have like large shapes and you want to have like small shapes and you want to have like medium sized shapes, right? Like this is the way to make sure that your composition like kind of flows and is interesting, to have a variety of like shape sizes. Um, but I think what happens, for example, when you're in this situation is that you have shapes, you just have like 100 tiny ones, um, and they're not kind of pulled together, kind of unified together. Whereas I think if you unify them together, generally you get like a better recognition for that shape and a better like overall identity for the shape in the composition. It's also it's not that I always think the flatter the shadow, the better. I think that Learning to organize those two main masses of kind of light and dark is ultimately good, has to be good. But there's maybe an extent to which as well that we should consider where is it most useful to keep them unified versus not.
Hmm.
I think, for example, keeping the entirety of this shape unified, you could say, well, that's a good idea, kind of by the letter of the law. It's not bad on its own. But what would be the argument if we did say, for example, want to communicate some variation inside that shadow because there is a darker area and a lighter area as well?
Hmm.
I think if you can make a good argument for it, it can make sense to do it. So, for example, like taking a darker value where we find it, like closer to the light edge, so it's almost like a kind of a core shadow idea, leaving the back of the head a little bit lighter. I think this is not like a bad outcome. Perhaps it increases the sense of light depth in the head overall. Uh, and then you can have that kind of flow and unity of lighter value from the white cloth into the hair. Creates a lot more atmosphere. But we're not flattening out the shadow like uniformly. We're kind of taking a creative choice to say, I think that, changing the value arrangement have a kind of positive impact on the drawing overall.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, if you look at, for example, just the outcome there, like this area seems much deeper and more atmospheric, and this area seems in turn like more detailed, right? Because it has that extra kind of layer of value to it.
Yeah. It's interesting that you can make an image feel like it has more detail, not by adding more detail to other places, but by removing it, like making other
Hmm.
places more atmospheric.
This is truly the efficient art on drawing. Like what I notice more and more is that the area that you really need detail is smaller and smaller and smaller, even like on a bigger drawing. Um, if you manage to figure out how to draw very broadly in other areas,
Mm.
there's a couple fairly sizable drawings that I've been working on lately, kind of full Stonehenge sheets. Um, and in one of them especially, I've figured out really how to concentrate the detail in just one small area.
Mm.
And the rest of the drawing can be rather rapid and can be changed and can be really broad. And I think you almost like it more for the range that it has. More so than, say, resenting it for a lack of detail. I think it makes the detail feel like more precious.
Mm.
Like there was something Loganov was telling me that they used to say around the Russian schools that like with white chalk, uh, that it was like if somebody is like wearing jewelry, right?
Mhm.
Like you're wearing like diamonds everywhere. It's like really over the top and gaudy and like in poor taste. But like one kind of beautiful glittering stone, like is this beautiful accent. And like that's how they want their white chalk to be, is to be an accent rather than
Mm.
like this overwhelming force. Whatever you feel about that, you can feel about that. But the idea that there's like a spectrum of things and you would like your accents to be very accenty instead of being everywhere, I think it tracks.
Yeah.
Just kind of looking at this space on the left and just thinking, kind of trying to reimagine that and see that as a little bit more integrity in terms of the um, kind of placement of various shapes, like or the placement of various values, if you know what I mean. Uh, so, at the moment, I would say that there are things that uh, you're drawing them as though they're there, but you're kind of making them up. which is not to say that all making up is equal or bad, but that I think when it reduces the sense of like realism, then perhaps it's worth a question, is this really cool or not? Um, because I see like moments in that contour when I could like squint down and justify really losing some edges around there. And as I do it, I feel like the face gains a little bit more depth. That's not always the case that like always a lost edge always creates depth. Um, but I think that there's, arguments to be made here where a couple more lost edges would do probably pretty well for you.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like that's not my automatic choice.
Mm,
I don't know if losing edges is ever an automatic choice for me because my tendency is to just draw every edge. I don't know.
mm,
But I think I agree with you that it makes it look a lot better.
mm. Yeah. It's not a thing that always has to be done either. Like I feel like it's the kind of thing where done sometimes in the right places, or at least like having it as an option that's like on the menu, you know?
Mhm.
Um, like so many of these things are situational wherein I don't take it as a rule that like I need to lose an edge. But I'm always in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, is this edge practical? Does this edge do anything for me? Or am I just drawing it because, it either is there or it seems like it would be there or whatever, you know? So I think it's like important that that's in the flow chart of choices you could take is
Mhm.
maybe this edge, it's not so important. Maybe this edge isn't here.
Yeah.
But I do think that overall, as I kind of compare these two, my first kind of quick analysis is, oh, there's all these little moments where visually there's a kind of discrepancy in between things, that if you simply attended more to like the strength of the various silhouettes, that you might get kind of more a more clear picture out of it, especially value wise.
Mm. I was actually going to ask you, how do you recommend tackling that area you were just working on, the forehead, where the hair kind of partially obscures? Because,
Yeah, what do you do? There's I actually don't know where this comes from, but there's a saying, hit it and hope.
oh my,
I feel like it's like a baseball thing, but then that doesn't make sense. I don't know if that's,
uh-huh. It's just
uh,
like shoot the shot and just try it. I mean,
yeah,
just
maybe it's like a golf thing, hit it and hope.
maybe because then you have to watch it after you hit it.
Yeah, like because like in golf, you kind of where you kind of want it to go, but like maybe
Well, it could be
trying to be
baseball.
overly precise about it. Like I have golfed a little bit. I don't know if you have in your life, but
Oh, I have a lot actually. Yeah.
a lot of times, like the enemy in golf is like overdoing all the aiming and the like really getting in your head about doing everything perfect.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you just you swing away, things kind of turn out decent.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a golf thing, but I just think, yeah, in situations like the hair, I always find myself improvising a bit. Um, so it's very much like I hit it and hope. I try some stuff, sometimes it works. I try some other stuff, sometimes it doesn't work. I wish I had like a more categorical answer for
That's
you.
okay.
But the
I think
truth is probably closer to that.
that's actually I think encouraging that you feel lost even at your level sometimes. You just kind of have to try things.
Yeah. Yeah, I do find that like sometimes kind of overestimating my ability to totally control the scenario is can be counterproductive. Like if I go into the hair with like too much of a plan and I just like execute my plan, I find that my result is usually a little bit worse. Whereas if I let myself be a bit more free and just kind of respond to what I'm seeing, the result can kind of generally be better. Now, like I know that that better performance is a kind of it's not exactly regression to the mean, but it is like that. You know, let's say this is a workshop students a lot. You're gonna like perform to your level. You know, like you're gonna receive new advice or have an idea or a thought, and you'll try it out, but you'll still perform roughly at your level. Um, so I think sometimes with hair, not getting too caught up in like trying to find a process that will accelerate your level,
Hmm.
but just gain experience in your level of like shit that works and shit that doesn't work. And through that, you'll kind of get a repertoire of like, oh, here's what I do when it's like this, or here's what I do when it's like that, which I think is probably a pretty good, pretty healthy approach to being able to draw hair in like different situations. Because there are a lot of times, like I've been working with this model lately with this sort of like quite dark and kind of wavy, curlyish hair.
Hmm.
It's a chaos of values. Like there's no thing in there that I can just go like, oh, I'll make it a shadow shape. Like you really have to just get in it and mess around until something kind of comes out. I mean, I hate to say it like that again, but it is a bit here. I think the situation is highly sort of light and shadow influenced. I think you can do a lot with just riffing on the light and shadow dynamic, so long as you integrate some kind of texture into it as well. I mean, there are other situations which would be far more, what's the word? Dangerous or far more, they'll respond worse to a standard formulization.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, whereas this one I think responds pretty well if you just look at it like kind of masses with texture. Yeah, that's how I would approach it.
Okay. Masses
Mm.
with texture.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just important that, and I've said this, so many times, I'm sure we've talked about it, but like, it's just form with a bit of texture on it. If you get the light and shadow shapes reasonably okay, and you don't render it the same way you render, you know, solid form and skin, then probably it's enough to look like hair.
Hmm.
Yeah, and turn out okay. But like being afraid of like putting in that texture, I think that's how you manage to miss the opportunity to kind of learn about texture. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can't be too safe, I guess.
Well, you can be safe if you're gonna like figure out a new thing.
Okay.
Like because safe means that you're kind of doing a thing you already know. But then, a lot of times drawing hair, you'll find yourself in a situation where there's a lot of stuff you don't know. So if you just try the stuff you already know, you're definitely not going to figure out the way to solve this new thing that you don't know
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of like the kind of risk positivity is that, at least you kind of try new stuff and like kind of new stuff happens. But overall, I think it's a solid drawing. The part that probably strikes me as the least convincing is the lips.
Mm. I had some trouble with the lips. I especially the part close to the corner of the mouth towards the center of the
Hmm.
drawing.
Hmm.
I didn't know how to handle it, and I don't think I arrived at a place where it makes it feels good. But
Hmm.
I wonder if you have other things to say.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like
The-
that could be an edge that might it's a soft edge, but I think I ended up making it hard. Oh, and especially I forget what the node of the mouth is it called?
hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
I wanted to get that in somewhere somehow. Like the bit of light that catches on the node next to
Yeah.
the crease. I thought, okay, let's try to get it in somehow, but I think I couldn't arrive at a great. result. Even I don't know
Yeah.
if it's even a good result, but
Mm. Yeah, the way that it seems to me is that it's kind of a you got to get comfortable or more comfortable, I think, with that dark accent concept. So that you'd say that more or less you could adjust for a lot of the dark values, in a relatively kind of unified way, but you'd still need inside of that like a like quite a darker accent to sit in that corner. And the more comfortable you get with that idea of the accent being much like you've done in the eyes, like a darker value inside another group of kind of relatively unified values, I think the more utility you're going to kind of get out of that. So giving yourself that unity and then the space to kind of create that accent, to me, I feel like that solves like a lot of the issues of that area.
mhm.
Despite the fact I'm doing a pretty average to crap job of showing that. It's definitely how I would approach it. Like I'd be trying to work on the form and the planes uh, in a slightly lighter value overall, uh, and then giving myself the accent to kind of deal with the rest. In addition, I do feel like some of your value is a little bit light as that three-quarter kind of plane turns across. It's not that it needs to be like super dark all over the place, but one of the reasons you might not be getting that feeling for the inward turn of the node might be because you have some values around it that are not what's the word, like holding up their end of the bargain, I guess. That's what I think of.
Mm.
Like they're a little bit too light, so you're not getting your contrast. So to me, that like kind of shows up a bit better. It in some ways like it's not a maybe verbatim translation. Like if you squinted down, I think you end up seeing things are slightly more unified than what that is. Uh, but I just think that more often than not, holding off for that where that accent is, it lets you create a more structured sense of form inside of a more ambiguous area. Also, there is a way that the lower lip, as it gets past that angle, needs to drop off pretty significantly in value.
Mm.
I think you've kind of wound up keeping that a little bit light,
Yeah, I think so too.
and so the lip overall gets a kind of flat look to it. Then in terms of the other side, again, I feel like there's an opportunity for a little bit more of like a slightly lost edge. At least I would do that. I would think that would be a pretty cool solution. And then obviously you have that accent at the other side. You get a nice deep feeling in the lips when you do that. This comes back to that like 60-70% thing. Like how much of the lips are we drawing and how much are we saying like I don't need that, or that's not kind of important for the drawing. I feel it's fairly common to like a lot of artists as well, is that they'll leave tons of stuff out. I leave tons of things out of drawings. Like there's so much detail that I don't put in.
Yeah, it looks great. Just I don't have that sense yet, I think. I think I am
Yeah.
trying to over explain.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes trying to be too literal as well. Like I guess uh, I go back and forth because it's like I get the utility and trying to be as objective as possible. Um, However, that always creates in me a feeling of contrast in that I understand objectivity is ultimately good for practice, um, though the target ultimately is subjectivity. Uh, it's about the realism as you see it. Um, so, trying not to weight too much one or the other priority. This that I've given you is a kind of maybe a little bit of a blend in between, you know, subjectivity and objectivity. I ultimately think I am honoring the appearance of the model, despite the fact I'm doing it by bending a little bit the rules of what I actually see.
Hmm.
So it's a tough mixture. But a lot of times, you know, in artwork, it's like this is the result it says, so the result feels quite good. I mean, it validates the process up to a point.
Right.
The takeaway here would be don't be afraid to go duotone. Listen to what the values tell you, but also understand that ambient occlusion is a powerful tool. And if you organize your values in such a way that you have space for that ambient occlusion, it can really give you a crisp sense of form inside an otherwise relatively ambiguous area.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think we've done a lot to fix this one. Yeah, you feel the way that light kind of hits more clearly. Now,
Hmm.
admittedly, I've kind of lightened a little bit some of that area on the left, lighter than the value of the paper. It should still function essentially the same, uh, whether or not it's the value gets heightened like that.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit about. I know that this is a common practice to add value to the background. I was wondering, when do you decide to do that? Because I see it in a lot of your drawings.
Uh,
Um, is that like a personal preference kind of choice? I
I
don't
think
know if it's
I
yeah.
usually decide to do it. Sorry, I'm just feel like around here.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, if I don't really have a plan to do it, I generally don't do it because it's like it can be a reactive thing where you're looking at your composition or your drawing and you kind of feel, you think maybe I'll add a background. It's probably the worst way to add a background, just because it means like you don't really have a plan. You just have a vague notion that it might solve something,
Mhm.
and that is not a guarantee of not creating a success, but it's a lot of bad drawings start out like that.
Yeah, it's
Um,
kind of like I'm not thinking about why I should use it. I'm just gonna put it because it might do something or
Generally, what it does, what it can help to do, if you wanted like a guiding principle to why it could exist, is to connect the subject to the background in some way, be it through a cast shadow, be it through a lost edge, or an even stronger contour. Um, in general, it also helps to kind of direct your eye around. If you wanted to emphasize a contour, for example, adding a background around it would be a great way to do that. So that I mean, we have in this drawing, for example, like this really strong silhouette back here.
Mhm.
Maybe that's not exactly where we want the attention to be. Maybe we want the attention to be over here. But like an outline might not feel super conducive to that. In that case, we could use a background to create a kind of boundary that would bring our eye more to this side, help us see it a little bit more clearly, right? Uh, I think generally that's what happens with backgrounds. They're used to kind of emphasize the thing that you think you want kind of people to see more. Um, that could be the background here, you know, like that's it's not impossible to say that you could do that, but you know, maybe it's not. I think the danger that you live with in backgrounds is that sometimes, like I said, you'll kind of I don't know why I call it this. But I always say it's like you get into this like big background thing where it's like you start putting some value and you can't stop. It just grows on you. And then
Uh-huh.
you've got like big background. It's not really doing anything all that great, but it's definitely huge. And it's definitely like in your drawing, you know?
It's
So
definitely
I try to keep it keep it neutral. Like if I don't have a good reason for a background, I'll probably like not do a background because I feel like the worst thing you can do is have some big unmotivated background that kind of isn't that cool, you know?
Hmm. I thought about it because I like this photograph. It's a good photograph. And I
Yeah.
think part of it is because of that really strong contrast on the light side of the face and the really dark background.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, well, in that case, is that a good enough reason, you think? Or
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely you can feel confident that any reason that you come up with can be made a good choice. Um, I don't know if you're ever familiar with this idea, but that after you make your choice, it's then up to you to make that choice right. Like
sure.
everything you do after that is as important as taking the choice. So you
Uh-huh.
could take the ostensibly right choice and like maybe you don't follow through. Maybe you do a
Hmm.
bad job following through. That choice can quickly become the wrong choice. So it's really up to you what happens after the choice is taken to determine whether it's the right choice or not. Like in general, I'm also always looking for variation along edges. So like the long edge at the back of the head, I think that's an opportunity for also kind of losing that one
All right, I can do less
as well.
less work there. Have to shade too.
Yeah. But it's like, I think anytime you see in a drawing, this is something I look for a lot in my own work. But if you see like a long enough contour that kind of looks the same, you
Hmm.
should think, maybe I need to like break that up somehow so it has some kind of like variation to it. If you don't get variation, it's difficult to make a drawing seem really interesting. And then also always kind of leaving yourself room for uh, that accented edge. Um, I'm always feeling like I want that room in between like my background value and like the darkest line that I can create to like bring a line out. Makes sense? And you see how that edge gets like really much stronger also with a line there to feel.
Hmm.
It's not just the crispness of the boundary, like it's also that it is a line as well. Now I'm looking at the front edge of this, you know? Yeah, but backgrounds, man, they're treacherous.
Yeah.
I've ruined many a drawing by over backgrounding.
Oh, you
Or
really?
like, it's I almost like look at it as like a symptom. If like
Oh,
I find myself working a lot on the background, I think like, what did I not get right about this composition that I'm having to work my ass off in the background?
do you think it's something that makes up for a poor composition, or is it? I guess it's not purely an enhancement on the composition.
No, I think it's just a part of it, you know. A well-chosen background really enhances a composition. One that's not so good, I don't know, it never sits quite right with me.
Do you think uh, a lot of it is the execution? I think you said there's a difference between making the right choice and make doing it well for backgrounds.
Yeah, I mean it could be. Backgrounds at least I tend to feel like they're a bit more a problem of conception.
Mm.
Like if you didn't know like what the good reason for you doing it was, I'll say this. You can look, I've seen very roughly drawn backgrounds that still did the job, and I was very happy about them.
Mm.
Rather than, you know what I mean? Like rather than a perfectly rendered background that doesn't really like do much for the drawing, that doesn't seem to move the needle to me very much.
Mm. I personally think it works well here. What do you think?
Which one? The
The
background in
background
this?
that you just put in right here.
Yeah, I think it's all right. I think it's okay. Let's merge these layers and see what we come up with. Yeah, I mean that. I mean, look where our attention is here and where our attention is here. And you can see really what the strength of that background work does. Like look at the silhouette on the far right.
Hmm.
This one, our eye is totally drawn to that left-hand side. And yes, by the way, there's a how. There's a how to it,
Uh-huh.
but it's also like it's not exactly a why, but it's more like a what. We need to diminish this, enhance this, and then we get the effect that we're looking for, right? So like you need to know that motivation to know that this should be like a value 7 and you should leave a value 9 for the line here, and that then you should like lose these edges. But until you think of that dynamic that needs to get lost, that needs to get found, you'll never come up with a 790. You know what I mean? Like it just you won't do it because why would you? It's not about rendering, it's about an idea.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, I don't know if I would have ever thought to lose the edge on the hair
Hmm.
because like it's there, I should put it in.
But you did say
What?
that you thought that that edge on the left was very cool.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons you chose the source photograph. Uh,
Oh, on yeah, on the left. I mean on her hair on the right. I
oh,
don't
to
know
lose
if
this
I
one.
yeah, I don't know if I would have thought to lose it, but I think I'll
Yeah,
just try to think
but I
about
mean, there's an inverse relationship. I mean, we talked about rendering too, right?
it. Mhm.
Like one area is high render, but by virtue of another area being so low render, even a medium render will look high in another place. So, like,
Yeah.
it would stand to reason that you'd enhance this by dehancing, by getting rid of a little bit.
Right, yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
What is the opposite of enhancing? To
Degrading, I think.
degrade the other boundary. But yeah, like maybe that's a thing too, where it's like you need that in your sort of imagination kit, you know, like it needs to be on the menu for you to order it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were talking about something else earlier that was like the same.
the
Oh,
lost
this is the
edge.
duotone shadow. It was
Oh,
darkening this down
yeah.
instead of like necessarily just lightening this to make it seem like there was like kind of more detail in that area and draw the attention in. But yeah, it's those things that like until they're introduced as an idea. But that's why like exposure is such a big part of education. You know, like you need to just like hear about stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
people do that. And then sooner or later you might think, oh, I might do that. Oh, this might be a situation where that's useful or applicable, you know. If you're just able to kind of stay open and suggestible to the things that you're seeing. I find it very challenging, also working from photographs and like kind of coming up with raw material like this, you know. Um, to me, sometimes it seems a little bit easier from life for various reasons.
Hmm.
I think it's the constantly moving nature of it, that I'm moving, the model's moving, that, you know, even the light might be changing, that, you know, one day it's dark, one day it's light or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
That
you get all these
sounds
different kind of permutations. I've even gotten to the point
nightmarish.
now where I'll have 3 or 4 different exposures of the same photograph when I'm working, so that I think, oh, if I want to draw the one part of the shadow this way, you know, I can key it from the most high key one, or if I want to draw another one a bit darker, I'll key it in a different way, you know?
Interesting. I might try that.
Oh, definitely do it. Especially when you have these strong like chiaroscuro photographs. It can be really good to have like a few different types to kind of look at. No, but I feel like this is pretty fruitful.
Yeah, I think so too.
Sometimes I think, you know, got an hour and one drawing. What are we gonna do? But I
This
think, you
is
know, but it all
daunting.
it's honestly, it's all down to the right questions. I was even telling a student this the other day. Um, he doesn't have like a lot of work. He's a really busy guy.
Hmm.
Uh, but like the sessions that we have, I don't know how to put this. I'm never exhausted at the end of them because he has really good questions. And when
Hmm.
there's good questions, oh, the conversation just flows about what to
Yeah,
do.
for sure.
I think it's the times when there's a dearth of good questions.
It's good to see you, Stephen. I hope you
Yeah,
have a good
same. Take care of
evening.
yourself, all right? I just emailed that screen grab to you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Cool, man.
Great. Take care.